Hello everybody, it's Sarah, and today I am back with another review of a book that I read back in September. And that book is Star Eater by Kirsten Hall, which is a standalone adult high fantasy. As always, this review will be spoiler free, and I will start out with a little synopsis or summary of the book. However, then I won't go into negatives and positives as I usually do, since, as I said, it has been a while since I read this book. 3 months. I've read a ton of books in between, and so I will more so talk about the things that still stand out to me and that still left a lasting impression on me, to the point that I still remember them now. But first, let's talk about what this book is about. As I have mentioned, this is an adult high fantasy, and this is a standalone. And within this story we follow Elle, or Elfreda, who is part of this matriarchal order. And as a member of this order, she has 2 things that she has to do. First of all, she has to use her magical powers to fight zombies. And second, she has to get pregnant to make sure that the order lives on in the future and that there's a new generation for this order. However, for reasons that I won't go into because it's spoilers, Elle really doesn't want to get pregnant. Like, she really does not want to get pregnant. And then in the course of this book, she also gets dragged into some intrigues between different factions within the order. And so that is the basic setup of the story. Also, the order keeps up their magical powers by eating human flesh, so they're cannibals or eating specific human flesh. But once again, that's also a spoiler, so I will not go into depth there. But there's just a lot of elements that make the book a lot of fun. Huge cats, like huge cats that you can ride on, cannibalistic nuns or priestesses, as well as zombies. Like, what else do you want from a dark fantasy novel? So today I want to start out with something that I really loved, and that is very much the world building or the magic system within this world, because I just love that Kirsten Hall went where she went, because this book is so deliciously, amazingly fucked up, and I ate that shit up. So if you're into that, this book will definitely be something for you. Also, I think I already mentioned it a little bit, if you're someone who's new to adult high fantasy, who wants to get into adult high fantasy, I do think that this book is a good place to start, because the world building itself is not too complicated. You don't have a lot of characters. You have just one book. It's a standalone, so there's not like the commitment to a huge ass series. And so I really do think that if you're not queasy and if the whole cannibalism thing does not upset you, then definitely go and check this book out if you want to get more into adult high fantasy. Now, the funny thing is, for me, while, as I said, I really loved the world building in this, I found myself, like, the plot strands that dealt with the world building and with the repercussions of what is happening to the world building, like, those parts of the plot were not really what interested me the most or what stayed with me the most now 3 months after I have read this book. It's something where I was like, yeah, okay, it's fine, I guess. But what I enjoyed way more was just seeing Elle deal with who she is, seeing her deal with her place within this order, seeing her fight with the different people within the order, also her relationship with people outside of the order, because in fact, within this world, the order, while it is needed to keep everyone alive, especially also because of the threat of the zombies, there's also good reasons why this order is hated, not just because of the cannibalism. And so I just found that conflict that Elle had there, because she did have friends outside of the order as well, I just found that conflict especially interesting, more so than the whole, okay, where do the zombies come from? How do we save the world? Because there was a bit of a plot in that direction as well. And that plot I just found a bit the reason why I also found that is because that was what was mostly dealt with very much towards the end of the book, and that's where I'm like, I do wish personally that this wasn't a standalone, but that this was at least a duology, because the ending did feel rushed to me. And it feels like we focused on something else for the majority of the book. Again, very personal troubles that Elle has. That is the focus of most of the book. And then at the very end, it's suddenly something completely different. And of course, the ending was set up throughout the book, but you know, it wasn't the focus. And yeah, it just, the stuff that happened at the very end was within the last 3 chapters or 4 chapters, and it was just, felt a bit rushed to me. Not to the point where I'm like, okay, I did not enjoy the book. I still absolutely loved it, and again, it was so amazingly fucked up. So the first 3/4, 4/5 of the book I absolutely loved. Just the very ending for me just kind of pulled it down a bit. But you know, it's just whatever. It's just kind of my personal preference as well, because I'm usually more interested in very personal or structural societal conflicts, more so than magical conflicts, which was what the ending was mostly. But going back to some personal things, again, with the personal development of Elle as a main character, I really enjoyed that. I really enjoyed all the relationships, whether they were antagonistic or whether they were like positive relationships with other characters that she had. I found Elle to be a very, very interesting main character, because on the one hand she does believe in the cause of the order, but on the other hand she does have this very central conflict where she really, really does not want to get pregnant. And so that was something that I just very much enjoyed and found very interesting, because it's done in a way where it's not that motherhood is anything negative, or it's not done in a way where Elle is this type of character who is like, oh my god, I don't want to marry because I want to be self-fulfilled, and you know, I want to keep my agency. And you know, it's not the typical anti-patriarchal arguments against pregnancy that you have in this book, but there's a very, very existential reason why Elle does not want to get pregnant. And I just found that very interesting, and you know, seeing her work through that and work, you know, through her feelings around being within this order more so than through her feelings about pregnancy. So yeah, I just found Elle a very interesting character. And then the last part that I wanted to mention that I also really, really enjoyed within this book, also part of the world building, because I gotta be honest, the world building definitely was my favorite part of this book. But the last part that I really enjoyed is how queerness is included within the story. First of all, Elle is a bisexual character. She is bisexual. She shows attraction to both women as well as men. But also the way queerness is included is that the order that we follow, like that Elle is a part of, is not just matriarchal. No. The women of that order are also, which by the way, matriarchal in this instant means it's only women. But, you know, it's not just that it's only women. The women within this order are also not allowed to have sex with men. So every single woman within this order is either lives in celibacy, she's sapphic, or she's asexual. And that's just something that I very, very much enjoyed, because, you know, there was just, it was a very interesting way to include queerness within the world building for me, because it normalizes queerness in a way that I have seen few books like use that way so far. So yeah, that was basically all I had to say about this book. Overall, as I said, I would recommend it. I did enjoy it. There were some issues I had with it, but those issues were like partly personal, partly due to the writing, I believe. I mean, if you have any issues with a book, it's almost always like a big part personal, but you know what I mean, I think. And so yeah, if you have read this book and watched my thoughts, reviews anyway, leave me a comment down below if you're interested in picking up this book. also tell me in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this video, maybe think about giving me a thumbs up and also maybe subscribing. All the links to my social media are in the description box down below, so go and check those out. All the links to my book club of Queens, Witches and Valkyries, will read one adult high fantasy book written by a woman or genderqueer person per month, will also be left linked down below. And yeah, with all of that said, I hope I'll see you soon. Bye!